I've been thinking about Easter in a time of testing. It's been said that we are weird, that is, we are Western, educated, industrialized, rich and democratic, or we used to be until this virus showed up. Our confidence in our way of life and who we are has been undermined. And so the question is how to have a joyful and generous vision of life in these times when mortality and fragility demand our attention. How are we going to rejoice? Well, one thing the pandemic affords is our recovering the strangeness of life, the gift of life, the sheer amazing fact that we're here at all, to see things afresh. Marilynne Robinson's narrator Ruthie in her wonderful novel Housekeeping is looking for a resurrection of the ordinary. And we note right at the outset that facts, as important as they are, explain nothing. It's facts that require explanation. And what's more, as Lily Tomlin reminds us, where are we now? We're in this together, by ourselves. I keep thinking of Charles Dickens' character, Mr. Gradgrind, in his novel Hard Times, who loved the birth of statistics, which made everything precise, which enabled him to control reality. People became mesmerized by facts, and Gradgrind epitomized their dehumanizing power. Now what I want is facts. Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Facts alone are wanted in this life. Plant nothing else and root out everything else. You can only form the minds of reasoning animals upon facts. Nothing else will ever be of any service to them. This is the principle with which I bring up my own children, and this is the principle with which I bring up these children. Stick to facts, sir. And his strong advice to a wonderful young woman is, never, never wonder. And what the Times really is asking for is the restoration of wonder and humility. Robinson accurately identifies what she calls a spirit of joyless urgency in our culture. We are indentured servants of economics, making sure we consort only with people who think like us. The pandemic reveals the undertow of an arrogant nihilism infecting the culture of the diminishment of wonder, awe and mystery. Robinson points out the decline of religion in America. So many people are calling themselves Christians who have either not read or have woefully misunderstood the Bible. And the coronavirus has uncovered our false sense of certainty, the idiot view of the universe as something solvable and in principle knowable. Easter is the celebration of our hidden identity in God. St. Paul in that epistle for Easter Day is wonderful in Colossians chapter 3 verse 3. You have died and your life is hid with Christ in God. That is the you you've manipulated, you've organized, the you hope is loved by people and admired by people, the you you've manufactured out of memories and relationships. You have died. That you that you worry about is gone, and you might not know who you are, but God does, and your life is hid with Christ in God. You are a gift, and that is something to rejoice about. And so when we look at St. Paul, such a marvel, such a gift requires a story, doesn't it, of epic proportions. We need to be able to tell the human story in such a way that we can celebrate who we are. Walter Benjamin, the great critic, wrote not long before the Second World War, the art of storytelling is coming to its end because the epic aspect of truth, wisdom, is dying away. The idea of truth and wisdom having an epic aspect sounds quaint and sentimental, a bit like Don Quixote tilting at windmills. Our functional and digital view of the world, undermined by the present crisis, doesn't like epics, but that's exactly what we need to recover in our own day, if we are to be humanly human. How do we recover this epic aspect of truth in a time when life seems sort of dangerously fragile and even ridiculous? W.H. Auden reminds us life is a very grand opera played by a 10th-rate touring company. In other words, we must take it seriously, but not too seriously, and certainly not take ourselves too seriously. I love the story about the historian A.J.P. Taylor, who once informed an Oxford Fellowship election committee that he had held extreme political views, but he held them moderately. This passion for moderation can be very annoying, but its rewards incalculable particularly in these troubling times. There's a story about the atheist philosopher A.J. Ayer, Freddie Ayer, when he was in his 80s and in hospital. He choked on a piece of smoked salmon that his mistress or a former mistress had brought in for him to eat. And he'd had one of those death experiences. He died for a few minutes. And his wife said afterwards, Freddie was so much nicer after he died. And some of us could do with a bit of dying before the event, so that when we truly love each other, you are dead and your life is hid with Christ in God. You might not know who you are, but God does. And isn't that true of all of us? Facing and experiencing death might make us more alive, more aware of just how precious life is, how fleeting and vulnerable it is. It may come not as a morbid thing, but as a gift. We are all future dead people, as the novelist Julian Barnes puts it, and this should wake us up and give us a sense of urgency and joy. Freddie was so much nicer after he died. That's true too for you and for me. And we are learning to live with our brokenness and fragmentary sense of self, our mortality. And this, far from being morbid, this liberates us to work for a society actually founded on love, while there is still time. And this, my dear friends, is good news.